And call to order the May 22nd Port Orchard City Council regular meeting. Please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Have any proposed amendments to this evening's agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I would move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Second, to approve the agenda as presented. Any further discussion of the agenda? All in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. We are to our first citizen comment period, which is for anything that's on the agenda this evening. Do we have any citizen comments? We have our two college students in the back row again here, getting extra credit, and I see. Welcome again. And, all right. Oops. Oh, Jerry. Did you want to comment? Go ahead.
Mine is kind of a comment / question.
Identify yourself for the record.
I'm sorry. Emery Kaltenborn, and as a bit of history, I'm here to comment about the self-storage ordinance. I've been in the self-storage business.
That should be done in the hearing, not in the.
Yes, he's absolutely. We're going to have a public hearing on that, so you'll have an.
It looked to me like it was on the agenda.
It is on. You're absolutely right, but there's a public hearing, and we'll capture that your comments in that testimony. Okay. Anyone else wishing to comment on anything other than self-storage? All right, I'll close the first citizen comment period. We are to our consent agenda. Motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second. Motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented. Need further discussion of the consent agenda? Hearing none, all in favor of approval of the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the consent agenda is approved. And we are to our presentation this evening. We have a presentation from West Sound Treatment Center, and we have Evans Callis here this evening to give a PowerPoint presentation and answer questions. So, Evans, please.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the council, Mayor Rob, attendees. Thank you for allowing us to discuss West Sound Treatment Center here this evening. We're going to cover a lot of material pretty quickly, and feel free to interrupt with questions. Try to make it kind of organic and flow naturally. I brought with me our distinguished Executive Director, Andrea McCurry. She's here for questions as well. Jack is our IT manager. He's also attending here today, and appreciate your time. So let's get started. I'm going to ask for three things. I'm going to ask for kind of a kickoff meeting to support our treatment center. We treat drug and alcohol disease locally and throughout Kitsap County, and ask you to support our annual fundraising gala that's coming up in October. And if you could wrap that up into some sort of resolution or support, some sort of formal support by the city. We'll be going around to other cities in Kitsap County and other organizations to talk about our treatment center and what we do. What do? We treat addiction disease in Kitsap County. We're a nonprofit organization. We take anybody. Bring us your addicted housewife. Bring us your businessman who's got trouble. Bring us your criminals. Bring us your people sleeping under the bridges. We accept all comers that need treatment. We have locations in Port Orchard, which is our headquarters, Hallsville, and we have treatment services taking place in the Kitsap County Jail. Our philosophy is not just drug and alcohol treatment, but to provide a surrounding support mechanism of housing, training towards preparing resumes and interviews, and it's called wraparound services. So the progression would be treatment for addiction, continuing to housing, transportation, reentry services, we call that core training, and hopefully on to success, to sobriety and becoming a productive member of society. Doing the numbers, just in April, we served 372 individual patients. We have 37 residents in 4 safe houses, and we employ 31 team members here in Paulsville. So we do drug and alcohol addiction treatment, housing programs, what we call CORE, which is, we'll cover it shortly here, but it's training for moving back into the real world through employment, through being a responsible citizen. We also serve the Kitsap County Drug Court with core curriculum called the Navigator Program. And this is the team that delivers, some here, and that's actually only a part of the 31, our 31 dedicated professionals. Our housing program, we have 4 safe houses. The theory is, which comes first, treatment and sobriety or safe housing? Many of our clients, we have a lot of Medicaid clients, they don't have a safe place to go. When they come out of treatment or they come out of the jail sober, that's the moment of truth. Do they get in our van, which takes them to a safe house, or do they jump in a car with their buddies and go to the hood? And then it just all starts over again. So we see housing as a really important part of our program here. Excuse me. The New Start Women's and New Start Men's, they're for people that have successfully come out of incarceration, been enrolled in treatment during incarceration, and are pre-qualified. There's no violent criminals involved. It's folks that have had it with the life on the streets, had it with the addiction, had it with the bourbon. They're ready to get out, and they come to us with New Start. And all the New Start clients, if I understand correctly, they're all in treatment. That's part of the program. They have to be in treatment. Toward the end of the journey towards sobriety, we have long-term housing for men and women. These are residents that approve their sobriety over time, graduated from our treatment, and now they're in a safe house. All our houses are safe, but we have a house in Port Orchard, and there they are. The one on the left is, I think it's in Bremerton, it's the women's house. We do welcome children, and the one on the right is in Port Orchard, that's the men's house. And again, those are the clients that are ready to graduate to sobriety and moving out into the real world. The core services, I mentioned these before. This is the basic stuff that those of us fortunate that have gone to college or had some on-the-job training, you know how to do a resume, you know how to do an interview, you know how to do an application for a job or college, and or you know how to work Outlook. And a lot of our clients don't even know that when they graduate into sobriety. So we've developed a program, again, wrapping around the treatment, housing, wraparound services. And Jack here has developed a digital literacy program where we actually teach Outlook and how to use Word and Excel and all that. And we help with applications to college, mostly Olympic College. Recent community activities are, Andrea's led our group to help folks in Kitsap County and the area. We did help with the homeless count earlier in the year in Bremerton, Port Orchard, and Kingston. That's some of our staff. Correct me now, the Salvation Army developed a bed bug thing, didn't they? So we helped, meaning Andrea and some of her staff, got out there, pitched tents so those folks earlier this year could have a place to sleep that night while the bed bugs were being treated. And sure enough, they stayed all night and cooked breakfast for 120 residents that didn't have a place to go. So we're out in the community. This is an example of some work at Tent City with some of our nonprofit partners. We had an open house in the fall. These are just kind of fun pictures we're showing at the staff. Where do we get our financial support? Mostly King County grants. We're working on diversifying that, but we receive a block grant for the wraparound services, the substance abuse block grant. The homeless housing helps with some of the housing programs. And all of us are paying the 1/10 of 1% sales tax for drug and addiction services, and that's what helps the New Start program, people that are incarcerated and start treatment. We also have smaller private grants, Bainbridge Island Foundation comes to mind, Medina Foundation, some others. Most of our patients are supported by Medicare dollars, and we do accept some private insurances, but still a shortage of funds exists to expand our services. We've been asked to expand services in Paulsbo. We are considering expanding in the south end here with possibly Bremerton. And next week, we're meeting with the Bainbridge Island folks. So we're looking to serve more, try to stop the smash and grabs, try to stop the car prowls, try to keep people from under the bridges, if you will. So, in summary, we're asking for your support for our gala fundraiser. We're way ahead of the curve here. It's October 27th at the Kitsap Conference Center. There's free parking. You can see me or Jack or Andrea for information. And so I will wrap it up. You can contact us there. We have some material out here. And I'd like to have a success story here. Jack, just talk for just a minute if I've got time. Thank you very much for your time and attention.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everybody, and I thank you all for the opportunity for us to come here and speak to you tonight. My name is Jack Thomas, and I am in long-term recovery. My clean date is May 25th, 2015, and I am a direct result of West Sound's programs and outreach. So basically, long story short, I ended up on hard times and ended up in Kitsap County Jail right before my clean date. And when I got out, I made a decision that I wanted to turn my life around. I did not do that at West Sound Treatment Center for my treatment center. However, I was staying in the Benedict House, and they had a Compass Navigator, which is now Core Services, going out to different locations in the community. Benedict House was one of them. He saw me, he heard me talking to people and said, you know, I think you've got some really good skills. You need to start thinking about what you're gonna do with your future, and I'd like to set up a meeting with you. Well, fast forward to a couple of weeks later, now I'm 48, 50 days clean, and this Compass Navigator sat down and talked to me, looked over my job skills and said, you know what, you've got some community service to do. Come do community service for us, start volunteering for us, and this could turn into a part-time job. As a result of him believing in me, over the course of the last 3 years, I went from just a volunteer to an IT person to the director of operations to the IS&T operations specialist, which is my current title. I went from having nothing at all to having my own car, my own place of residence, a responsible, productive member of society for sure. I've turned around the IT process at West Sound from running Windows XP with no firewalls to 100% HIPAA compliant, 42 CFR Part 2 compliant, as well as having Office 365, SharePoint, and full incremental backups going to the cloud on a nightly basis. So I am living proof that people can and do recover, and I firmly believe in the services that we offer, which is why I've started under Core Services the Digital Literacy Program, which is specifically a program geared to give back what's been given to me to other people in the community. So my goal is to help people get over their fear of technology, embrace technology, and be able to propel themselves forward into our new economy and our new workforce that is primarily focused on being able to use a computer. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Questions for Jack or Evans?
Well, are you an inpatient recovery program or an
We
outpatient?
do not currently have inpatient services. Our strategic planning process is coming up later this year, and we would like to look at that because we've been asked to consider that by community leaders. We have an intensive outpatient treatment, which is for after an assessment, which is basically admission, history and physical, for lack of a better term. You're assigned either intensive outpatient or outpatient, which is less frequent visits, but one-on-ones, group, all that stuff's included.
I think everybody's aware that this facility is located in our industrial park. The Border Trip facilities is the one in our industrial park.
I didn't know.
So that's where
Glad I
Lumsden
said-
is?
I'm glad I said something.
I do too.
So if you, the mothers and the fathers of the city, give us your total support, that's what we ask for. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your presentation time. All right.
Oh, if I had read the address, I would have known, yeah.
All right, moving on to our public hearing this evening. Mr. Bond, we have a public hearing on interim ordinance number 1518 concerning self-storage facilities.
Yes, thank you. On April 24th, 2018, the City Council adopted an interim zoning ordinance, Ordinance 15-18, relating to self-storage facilities to be in effect for a period of 1 year. This ordinance amended sections of Chapter 20.46 of the Port Orchard Municipal Code and had the effect of differentiating between indoor and outdoor self-storage and restricting the geographic areas where self-storage facilities may be constructed. In addition, the ordinance increased restrictions on indoor self-storage as an accessory use to multifamily projects. Ordinance 15-18 was adopted as an emergency measure pursuant to RCW 3670A 390, which allows for an interim zoning ordinance to become effective immediately and to continue in effect for a period of 1 year so long as A, the city adopts a work plan for the implementation of a permanent code, B, the ordinance is adopted by a supermajority of the council, and C, a public hearing is held on the ordinance within 60 days of its passage. The required hearing on Ordinance 15-18 has been duly noticed by the city to be held on May 22nd, 2018. As a public hearing, the City Council will take public testimony on interim Ordinance 15-18 and may choose to adopt additional findings of fact in addition to those findings already included in Ordinance 15-18. However, the Council is not required to adopt any additional findings. City staff has not received any written comments on this interim ordinance up to this point, and the staff recommendation is to conduct a public hearing on the interim zoning ordinance. Thank you.
Okay. With that, I will open up the public hearing on the interim ordinance for concerning self-storage facilities. So, sir, it's your opportunity.
Well, Mr. Mayor, first let me apologize for jumping up before I was supposed to.
That's all right.
My name is Emery Kaltenborn. As I said earlier, I've been in the self-storage business since 1990. I've had stores in Nevada, Oregon, Idaho, and Washington. And I'm getting kind of old now, a little long in the tooth, and I'm kind of winding down and turning it over to the next generation. But we're still active, and we've been looking at properties in Port Orchard, although the one I have on this side of this sound is not in Port Orchard, it's in Central Kitsap. And I'm not sure from reading this, because I'm not an attorney, whether I've got a problem or not. But my concern is, I've been in all of those communities over this time frame, and when I read parts of Section 7, and I need to read it so I quote it correctly, the zoning ordinance must be adopted immediately as an emergency measure to protect the public health, safety, and welfare. Have I been damaging the safety, welfare, public health of all of these communities? Do I need to go back and start apologizing to people? Do I need to call the only attorney I've had in many years as real estate attorney, ask for a libel attorney recommendation? Where does this come from? What made you put that in there? What is, do you guys know something I don't know about the self-storage industry?
We aren't going to debate back and forth. It's for you to make your comments in regards to our
Okay.
ordinance.
That's my comment, and since my question was where did this come from and you can't answer that, I appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you for your comments and for your testimony. Others wishing to testify on the self-storage public hearing? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. Mr. Bond? Further action on this side? Okay, thank you.
I take that back. If you want to deliberate on whether additional findings are needed, you're welcome to do that, but nothing is required.
Okay, so nothing is required, but staff could, or excuse me, council could direct staff for additional findings. Is there any,
I don't see the need to at this time.
staff is working on the permanent ordinance as part of our code changes. All right, we'll move on to our business items. The first is business item A, adoption of a resolution acknowledging and correcting past contract procurement management policy and procedure deficiencies. Mr. Dorsey.
Excuse me. Thank you, Warren, council members. So we have 4 items that are similar. So bear with me. On September 18th, 2018, during the Project Management Review, or PMR process, performed by the Department of Transportation Highways and Local Programs for the Tremont Street widening and the Bay Street pedestrian pathway projects, it was discovered that past contract lapses had occurred and that past contract procurement practices did not comply with federal standards, whereby the city immediately began the preparation of a corrective action plan as requested by the Department of Transportation. In summary, the corrective action plan involves three primary components as follows. Number one, acknowledgement of the city's recent actions taken pursuant to the fiscal year 2015 audit, being the adoption of the standards of conduct and written procedures, Resolution 086-16, and the city's official procurement policies and procedures, Resolution number 019-17, which had already addressed most of the issues discovered during the PMR. Number two, the preparation of a memorandum for contract management and procurement, which is attached, to further clarify the city's compliance intent. And three, proposed amendments to contracts C002-05, C069-09, and C071-09 to correct past contract lapses. Then those three amendments are your items 7B, 7C, and 7D. Staff recommends adoption of Resolution 024-18, thereby acknowledging and correcting past contract procurement and contract management policy and procedure deficiencies for both the Tremont Street widening and Bay Street pedestrian pathway projects.
Mr. Diener?
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt resolution number 24-18, thereby acknowledging and correcting past contract procurement and contract management policy and procedure deficiencies for both the Tremont Street widening and Bay Street pedestrian pathway projects.
Second.
Second. And remind me, Mr. Dorsey, and for the record and the council, so these lapses happened with the prior city engineer as you were in that span when you were coming to work for the city, I
Right.
believe.
One of them occurred in the year before I came to the city, and then two others occurred immediately upon both the past assistant city engineer and myself coming to the city, when we were just drinking out of a fire hose. And really there was, because the departure of the previous public works director was fairly abrupt, and so things weren't like handed off. So really they all happened in that general time frame in that 2007, 2008. There was one contract lapse that we are correcting with Olson Associates that was really based on, we had done that federal design, and then we took a break when the council, we were gonna take a second look at how we were gonna move forward. And then so we did that process of meeting with the 5 overwater property owners. And so even though we had expended all that funding in a timely manner, then we restarted the project, but we hadn't amended their contract. And even though they didn't do any work past that used federal money, Department of Transportation wanted us to clean that one up as well. Even though we did spend all that money within the time frame, we used city money after that.
So these are contract lapses that happened roughly 10 years ago, and we're in essence self-auditing with the Department of Transportation ahead of the state auditors coming in, so
And
that we
we're
can.
also correcting procurement. For example, in Tremont, we have a copy of the actual advertisement, but there's no documentation after that about scoring, interview questions, anything like that, which there's no record of it. So there's no way to get from we advertised to who we selected in 2005. So we're cleaning up that as well. And then with Universal in the 2015 audit, that's when we determined that even though we had complied with the Washington Local Agency Guidelines Manual, the federal government, the auditor said that we needed to advertise, not just go off the roster, which we did, and then we interviewed. But the initial selection of, or we selected and sent out the advertisement to 10 firms that did that type of right-of-way acquisition service. But according to the auditor, we were supposed to actually have sent out an advertisement where the lag manual says we can select off the roster. So we're still working with the finance director on getting resolution of that question because that's still unanswered. But in the meantime, we're going to go ahead. We've already gone ahead and made corrective actions with the termination of the contract with Universal, reacquiring, going through the process to reacquire a right-of-way agent to continue the Bay Street pedestrian pathway project. So we're doing everything we can do at this juncture to correct both procurement and contract lapses moving forward.
Yes, Cindy?
Just a correction for the record. It's on September 18th, 2017. This is in the summary. It's not your problem, but it's not 2018. Right.
Yeah, we haven't gotten to September 18, 2018 yet.
So I'm just saying it just for the record to correct the, the date.
The date should be September of 2017, correct?
September
Last
8th.
fall.
Oh, yeah.
Mark's
Well,
very
you know,
farsighted.
sorry about that. That's in my world right now. It could be
September
September
2017 when we
2018. I
found
don't
these.
even know it.
Yes. Good
Yes,
catch.
thank you for that.
All right. Other questions? Yes, Mr. Chang?
I just need to remind council and the audience that I'm an employee of DOT, which has 7,000 employees. I am not associated with Highways and Locals Program, which is the department that's coordinating this, but if anyone feels that I need to recuse myself, I can. I do not benefit from it in any way, well, materially, individually.
Anyone wish Mr. Chang to recuse himself?
No.
No.
Seeing none? So, all right. Any other questions? You'll be voting on adoption of a resolution acknowledging and correcting past contract procurement management policy and procedure deficiencies. Our engineer always gets so wordy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. We are to item B, which is approval of amendment number 1 to contract number 00205 with Berger Abram Engineers, Inc. to correct contract management deficiency in coordination with the previous corrective action plan. Mr. Dorsey.
Okay, so, thank you. So the next three items have the exact same staff reports, other than they're referring to the specific contract in which it was approved under, and then, which is our city contract number. So for BHC, it's contract 002-05. That equates to, in the world of the Department of Transportation, if you go back to supplement agreement, you'll see supplemental agreement 3A. And so this is the actual DOT document. So this is supplement 3A is the amended 3, which then the execution date and the completion dates have been corrected so that there isn't a lapse of time. So I wanted to explain that so that everyone understands really what we're doing. So on September 18, 2017, during the project management review process performed by the Department of Transportation for the Tremont Street widening project, it was discovered that past contract lapses had occurred. The proposed amendment number 1 to contract C002-05 with the Berger ABAM will correct the time lapses found within local agency standard consultant agreement supplements number 3 and number 5. Staff recommends approval of Amendment 1 to contract C002-05 with Berger ABAM for the Tremont Street widening project, thereby amending the dates within supplemental agreements number 3 and 5 to the local agency consultant agreement.
Yes, Ms. Lucarelli.
I move to approve amendment number 1 to contract number C002-05 with Berger ABAM Engineers, Inc. for the Tremont Street widening project, thereby amending the dates within supplemental agreements number 3 and number 5 to the local agency standard consultant agreement.
Second it.
Second by Councilmember Clausen. questions or comments?
Well, I just, up in the top here, it says on supplemental agreement number 5A, it says the execution date is May 5/14/2008, and the completion day is 7/7/2008. Down under section 4, it says completion date is revised, maybe it's because it says revised to July 8th, 7/8. I just want to make sure that this document was correct.
Referring to supplement number 3A?
Yeah.
You said 5?
Oh,
Well, they're both, 3A and 5A have the same issue.
right, so if I go back to the resolution, because I know Sharon, I was adding a day to be safe, and then Sharon asked me to just take him to the exact date, so I think that's what happened on that was. So let me go back to the resolution, which is page 27 of 47. So let's look at, by extending the completion date from June 30, 2008 to July 7th, 2008. So in the document, it's correct up in the top box. Down below that that should be 7/7. That was where I gave myself an extra day. So I when Sharon caught that or made that recommendation, I caught it up here, but I didn't catch it in the fine print. So,
And it's on
yeah,
3 and 5.
right. So we'll make that correction. We'll call that a scrivener's error. And then before we sign these, because the consultants have to sign it and we have to sign
And I
it,
have to
so.
sign
Okay, good catch.
Lawson?
Maybe I'm not following the discussion, but on mine, it says the completion date is January 7th, 2008.
There's two,
Turn it over.
there's 5A and 3A, they look almost identical. Here,
Okay, I see the five, so,
The 3A is January, the other one is
okay.
7.
Okay,
5A,
yeah,
which is
They aren't consistent. So one of the two is correct, and Mark says he's got it figured out. They need to match.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, section 2.
So before it's signed, you'll figure out which of those two. They're 6 months off, actually. Completion dates,
there's two
No, they're two different
agreements
different agreements, okay?
Two different.
in 5A.
Okay.
So he's saying that these completion dates need to line, this is what Becca's pointing out. There's two places.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Oh, I see it
only
down below.
we're only off by a
Yep,
day.
now I see it, it's off by a day.
Day.
1 day, I see it
Yeah,
there.
I added an extra day
2008, but
Just to be on the
in
same
the
side.
top. I didn't correct it in the
in the
bottom.
bottom.
I just didn't want us to have to correct the
Yes.
correction.
Yeah, no, that's
Correct
a
correction,
good
yeah.
catch.
Yes.
Be back next month.
Even though, yeah. What local programs looks for is that top right-hand corner. That's what led to this whole discovery. So anyway, thank you for that.
Get that, I see what you're referring to now. Okay, we'll get that corrected. Other comments or questions from Mr. Dorsey? Okay, I think we have a motion by Councilmember Lucarelli and a second by Councilmember Clausen. Question?
May not, we'll wait for that.
They made a motion and a second.
Yeah,
We're in discussion.
I'm sorry to belabor the point, and I can't tell if Beck has already caught this, but under description of work on page 29 and 47, did we talk about the dates starting from 2030 of 2017 to 1/8 of 2008? And
1/7.
so the 2030, 2017 should be like 6/7/2007 or something?
Work there, Mark?
Oh, okay.
Oh, and the description of work?
From December 30th, 2017 to
Right.
January 8th, 2008.
No, that relates to a different,
How can you start
Many years.
before you finish?
right,
One's 2017.
On
one's
3A and that box there, description of work,
7, yeah.
oh,
that should
sorry.
be 07.
Shit.
That's kind of what we
Shoot.
guess. Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
And again, you need to choose whether it's gonna be January 7th or January 8th.
Yeah, he said 8th with
We're
Scrivener's
going,
errors.
we're going with the 7th.
7th. with
Okay, then you've
Scrivener's-
got a couple places to correct it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he called those out as Scrivener's errors.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
No, I hadn't caught that other one, Fred, thank you.
Yes, that was, again, in the description work, that's a typo. That should have been a 0. So I was doing 3 of these at the same time, so there's like 5 total, so I apologize.
Same with 5.
Yeah, same way on 5. Same mistake.
Yep.
No?
Yeah,
No,
5 is
Right
7,
up here.
7.
Five is good for description of
script.
work.
7. Just another
Seven,
correction.
seven, yeah, and the completion date, yeah, we caught that.
Yeah, that's, on 5A, it's only the 7, 7.
Okay, anything else? Positive? All right, if you're voting on the approval of amendment number 1 to contract number 002-05 with Berger Abraham Engineers, Inc. to correct contract management deficiencies in coordination with the corrective action plan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
And I've got a big book downstairs that actually has these in tables, and I'll go back through and double check all the numbers. And
Okay, we're on
Make
to
sure
the
they're
next
right.
one, which is 7C, approval of amendment number 1 to contract number 071-09 with NL Olson and Associates to correct contract management deficiencies in coordination with corrective action plan. Mr. Dorsey?
so for brevity, it's the same staff report. It's just dealing with Olson Associates on Bay Street pedestrian pathway, contract 07109, and it's just supplement number 5. And so let's go back to supplement 5. So in the resolution, we are extending the completion date from December 31st, 2012 to January 27th, 2015. Again, the reason it has such a lapse was that time period when we were doing the city-funded activity. And so,
You did it better on the dates on this one.
yes, so these are correct. Thank you.
Yeah, but
So staff recommends approval of amendment number 1 to contract C071-09 with NL Olson Associates for the Bay Street pedestrian pathway project, thereby amending the dates within supplemental agreement number 5, which is now 5A, attached.
Councilmember Quason?
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt amendment number 1 to contract number C071-09 with NL Olson and Associates, Inc. for the Bay Street pedestrian pathway project, thereby amending the dates within supplemental agreement number 5 to the local agency standard consultant agreement.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Diener. Yes. Councilmember Lucarelli?
Want to disclose that I have a family member that works for NL Olson and Associates. I don't believe that there's a problem with it, but I could recuse myself, considering this is just an amendment to a previous contract. But I want to disclose that fact.
Is anybody wishing Councilmember Lucarelli to recuse herself from this matter?
No.
And shaking their head in affirmation, so you appear to be good.
Okay, I should have brought this up on the other one, but I'm gonna bring it up now. I just want to make sure I understand these dates. In the body
Of the supplement?
of the supplement, it says, "The local agency of the city of Port Orchard desires to supplement the agreement entered into with NL Olson and Associates and executed on April 20th, 2018. So you did a supplemental agreement with them this April.
You see what she's referring to, Mark? On 5A for normal.
Yeah, I'm looking at that.
And it was the same on the other ones too, and now I just want to make sure.
When did we enter into that?
Right, those are, yeah, those dates are, that's when we originally were, yeah, those have to be updated just because that's when we originally thought we had it on the agenda. So I've got to,
Should be tonight's date.
yes,
Oh,
sorry.
Makes sense now.
What is the date today?
5/22.
5/22/18. Yeah, we,
2018.
2018. You remember what I said at the retreat?
Yeah, I
There's no
know.
no malice in this. It's just,
Just trying to be helpful, Mark.
yes, no, I appreciate the.
This has been we've been punting
Oh, yeah.
this
Yeah.
down in agendas for over a month
Yes.
because we wanted to get it right.
Well, I would say that was easy.
Yeah, I'm glad we took the extra time.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Clausen, a second by Councilmember Diener. Further discussion, I think we've got the dates corrected. Any other questions? Hearing none, you'll be voting on the approval of amendment number 1 to contract number 071-09 with NL Olson and Associates to correct contract management deficiencies in coordination with a corrective action plan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None, the motion carries. We are to 7D, approval of amendment number 1 to contract number 069-09 with Universal Field Services to correct contract management deficiencies in coordination with a corrective action plan. Mr. Dorsey.
So this one is slightly unique in that in the prior amendments, we were changing the completion date. So we were moving forward to cover the lapse. In this one, we're actually going the opposite direction because the contract lapse wasn't a supplement, it was the actual contract. So that's why you're going to see in this one that we actually have the execution date modified because we're moving in the other direction. So with that said, on September 18th, during the PMR process for Tremont Street widening, it was discovered that past contract lapse had occurred. The proposed amendment 1 to the contract 06909 with Universal Field Services will correct the time lapse found within the local agency standard consultant agreement supplement 1. And so let's go to the resolution to correct the lapse in time to renew the agreement. Supplement 1 thereby modifies the previous execution date from December 9th to October 31st and correctly reflects the completion date from 10/31 to 12/31, from 10/31/08 to 12/31/09. So from 10/31 to, yes, and October, December. Yes, I believe the dates are correct in that, other than today's date on the execution date.
The execution date needs to be corrected to today's date.
So staff recommends approval of Amendment 1 to C069 with Universal Field Services.
Mr. Clausen?
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve amendment number 1 to contract number C069-09 with Universal Field Services, Inc. for the Tremont Street widening project, thereby amending the dates within supplemental agreement number 1 to the local agency standard consultant agreement.
Got a second by Councilmember Rosapelli. Any questions or comments?
Well, I just have a question. I know that the other two amendments that we just did with NL Olson and the other one was with Berger ABAM, wasn't it? Where we continue to have a very good working relationship with both of those organizations, and getting the signature should not be difficult. Do you anticipate any problems getting Universal Field Services to do the appropriate signing?
No, there's no reason for them. They still have to work with local programs on other projects. So, you know, there's a number of correction action plans that are being prepared right now that we looked at some other options. So there's other jurisdictions that are doing the same thing we're doing. I think that our template, based on what we saw, is probably better. But we took some time to look at, the Department of Transportation gave us samples. So there are consultants out there that are signing these. And again, the hope, and I didn't want to, in the fiscal impact, just for the record, by the preparation of the correction and action plan, it's the city's desire to avoid having associated federal funds previously reimbursed now deemed ineligible. At this juncture, this is all we can do. Conversations with the Department of Transportation says that they've talked to federal highways, and again, there's other jurisdictions that are doing this, and they feel like there will be no repercussions. But at the end of the day, until we finish the project, we won't know 100%. All we can do is, in essence, come clean. We went through the files, we found these lapses, we've put actions in place so that future contracts won't lapse. We've already addressed our procurement issues back in 16 and 17. So we're doing everything that everybody else has done that has not had funds deemed ineligible. So I'm, almost certain that we will have corrected this, and as we move forward, closing out Tremont and Bay Street, we won't have any issues closing those out. And obviously moving forward with future federal funds, we're obviously going to follow procurement and monitor the contracts.
Question? All right, any other questions? Hearing none, we'll be voting on the approval of amendment number 1 to contract number 069-09 with Universal Field Services to correct contract management deficiencies in coordination with the corrective action plan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. We are on to item E, which is the approval of the May 8th, 2018 council meeting minutes.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the May 18th council meeting minutes as presented.
Second by Councilmember Chang. So a motion and a second, and I think Councilmember Clausen will abstain.
Yes.
So all in favor of approving the May 8th minutes, council meeting minutes, please state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? One abstention. Mr. Clausen. And we're through our business items. We're to our council committee reports. We have the Finance Committee. I think you've set a date.
Yes, we're scheduled for May 29th at 5:15 PM here at City Hall.
Okay. And Economic Development and Tourism.
Yes, we did not have our May meeting and rescheduled for June 11th at 9:30 a.m. And we have a guest speaker that day, John Powers from Kitsap Economic Development Alliance will be speaking to us.
Wonderful. Utility Committee meeting. I think you met
We
earlier in the week.
did. We met Monday, and to sum it up, we had a sewer customer who had concerns attend our meeting and was referred to department heads, a meeting with the department heads. We also discussed the Foster Pilot Project update. There was a well number 9 update, and we were provided with a process piping plan and design of the project. A huge benefit being the new restrooms that are going to be new and closer to the tennis courts for safer and more convenient use. We also had an update on the McCormick Woods Pump Station number 1 with the design being provided. That completion, and the cool thing about that is the 20,000 gallon emergency storage tank, which I think is very cool. Completion 2019. Well, number 13 update, we had a design provided that we received the preliminary site plan, and that completion is slated for 2020. The next meeting is going to be, I said June 18th. Wrong. It was May 21st meeting. Our next meeting is June 18th. That's my correction. Excuse me on that one.
Okay. How about Sewer Advisory?
July 18th at 6:30 will be the next sewer advisory meeting.
Okay. Land use? Have you met?
I think we have already gone over our last meeting, and the next meeting is June 4th,
yes.
9:30 at DCD.
Anything to report on lodging tax? Process, okay. Chimes and lights?
Well, it was a little bit of a hard meeting because we had to deal with the news that we might not be able to put up our brand-new garland across Bay Street this coming Chimes and Lights Festival due to the problems with the cables being too low. But we're working to overcome that, and we're looking to have trees. There's a tree contest that we're having with local organizations sponsoring a decorated tree, and we're getting quite excited about the possibilities of what this will mean for Chimes and Lights. We'll bring you more information soon, but we're encouraging all organizations to sponsor a tree, decorate a tree, and that would be, you know, Seroptimus, Rotary, etc., POPSA. More information forthcoming on that as we find out the legalities of this project. Otherwise, the next meeting is June 18th, 3:30 at City Hall.
Okay. Outside agencies, do anything for KRCC, other than the retreats coming up?
Yeah, the retreat is coming up May 29th, I believe.
The last board meeting at Transit, probably the big issue or controversial issue was the significant amendment to the contract to Nichols Brothers for the finest. And Cole Medina probably said it best. I mean, we bought a hole for $1.5 million, and we wish we would have known more about it. You know, the surveyor should have found some of these deficiencies. And so, you know, it'd be about double what we're into this boat to procure a brand new boat, and we're going to have basically a brand new boat when it's done. I don't think the outcome would have been any different. It would have been nice to know all of it when we approve the contract versus piecemeal. So, and it's going to set us back a little bit in a timeline. So, hopefully by Thanksgiving versus the fall, I think is more realistic timeline on that service starting up. So.
Hopefully not as late as Thanksgiving, but
Is
more
that
like,
the Kingston service?
Correct, Kingston service, correct.
more like,
So it won't be starting this summer?
no, we won't unfortunately get the finest out of the yard until the latter part of September. So it'll probably be middle of October before we're gonna start. But
Okay, Halloween. Not Thanksgiving. Yes, sir.
I have one outside agency, and I'm not sure if I'm there. I think I'm there because of the other hat that I wear during the day, but I'm on the advisory board for the state work release facility that's up in our industrial park. And I'm not sure how familiar the community is with that facility, but that essentially is a facility that folks that are coming out of the prison system have an opportunity to kind of get integrated back into the community by going into these work release facilities. And there's a number of requirements that they have to meet to even participate in that, one of which is that they have to have a job. They basically have 30 days to find employment. If they're unsuccessful in finding employment, then they go back to finish their sentence in the prison system. And the work release facility here in Port Orchard, which is basically accepting folks from Kitsap County, parts of Jefferson County, and kind of the northern parts of Pierce County. They have somewhere in the neighborhood of around 60 beds, most for male, but they do have a wing for female residents. And they have like 61 folks that are gainfully employed throughout our community, and it's amazing how many employers are supporting that program and helping folks transition back into society. And a number of folks, once they've left the requirements of the Department of Correction, have been able to maintain their employment and continue to work in our community. So we heard earlier some of the success stories of West South Treatment. To me, the success of our work release system that we have is not only that folks are back in the community, but they have been up there for, and I don't remember the exact date, but in excess of a decade. And the beauty of that fact is that, has anybody heard of an issue with them being there? I mean, they are working with folks coming out of the prison system for the last 14, 15 years, and people are cycled through there almost on a weekly basis. They have people that are coming into the system and getting employed and doing all the things they're supposed to do. And the community never hears a peep out of that facility being there. So it's been something that's, their track record is incredible. So I just wanted to share that they really do a fantastic job of not only helping these people back into society, but also making sure that they're not being a problem for society while they're going through that process. So I just wanted to share that.
Okay, thank you. All right, go to the mayor's report. We talked a little bit about we've continued to talk a little bit, or actually too much, about our challenge to attract an engineering tech. And earlier this week, we talked a little bit about this, and actually yesterday. And we know that Mark's going to bring forward a contract for some interim help. That interim help is for an engineering tech. It will be $115 an hour plus travel expenses. Engineer, yeah, for an EIT. Yeah. Yeah. I think I said that. I said an EIT, didn't I? You said engineering tech. Oh, I'm sorry. I meant to say EIT. So anyway, so we've got, that's what we're going to do for the short interim help. What Noah made a great recommendation here is that we looked out there. Bremerton right now, I think is they've changed they're also now trying to attract an engineer in training. So they've got a posting for that, and Bainbridge Island is actually posting for an engineer, an entry-level engineer position. The EIT position at Bremerton the range is 30 to 36. The starting salary for an engineer 1 is 38 to 47, top end at 47. The thought is that we're only going to fill one position, but let's post both of these jobs and see what we can get out there. And then come back to the council with, okay, we found the right body. This is the job that we want to create. I don't want to waste 60 days looking for an engineering tech that may not exist.
An EIT.
Or an EIT, I keep saying engineering tech. EIT that maybe doesn't exist, when we might be able to get, either one of these is going to be considerably less expensive than this contract that we're about to hire. So is there any objection or heartburn with that process?
Actually, I think it's a really good way to go because we do it where we post for apprentice mechanics and mechanic at the same time. Hopefully we can find a good body. So I think it's a great way to go.
Okay. Others?
Posting them both.
Okay. So we aren't going to hire both. We're going to hire.
Right.
We're going to post 2 jobs and,
Right.
one.
Best candidate.
Best candidate is what we'll bring forward and then, find the money and the other piece to, because we have to do it by ordinance now, don't we? The job position. So we'll bring back an ordinance when we figure out what this job description's going to be. From there, the retreat, I thought was fabulous retreat Friday. So thank you for your time on Friday. I thought, personally for me, the best outcome, and I put it on the board over here, was those from our visioning session when, and those are all things that came out of your guys' mouths. So, and I thought they were fabulous. I had Sophie send them to me. So, for the record, there, are we raising the bar? Are we honoring the past but not living in the past? Are we building connections with outside partners? And will this project or action make us proud? So I just felt that was appropriate to have on the board and to maybe reference once in a while as we're doing things in here at the council meetings. The other one, Sophie's working on a summary of the retreat. I'll have that maybe at the next council meeting, but for sure a month from now. And we had, you remember when we ranked, so I put it on the dais here before you, we ranked all of the transportation projects. At the moment in time, when you guys voted, we believed that the Bethel corridor was gonna cost $500,000. Since then, we've gotten the proposal and it's 3 times that. So I just wanna make sure that no one could change your vote. Maybe it doesn't. And I think what we really, if the corridor is really important to you, I think we're probably gonna have to change the scope of a little bit of that to something more affordable.
This is for a 60% design.
Design. Yeah, the whole corridor, correct.
But that also includes the Sedgwick, it's Sedgwick and Bethel.
No,
So-
that's 1.9 for.
Oh,
includes
I'm
it.
sorry, you're correct.
Yeah, 1.5 just for Bethel. So we might do something like Lund South, or maybe we do a lesser percentage and we do 100% on Salmonberry. So as we go through, if this is still everybody's #1 priority, that's fine. I just want you to know that it's to do all of it is gonna cost more than we probably have. And we might have to tweak the scope of that contract.
Well,
Yeah.
I would just say, if that's the case, I would move Anderson Hill. I would flop Anderson Hill in the Bethel corridor.
I think with the drive, and you see, I had him at an asterisk there too on Anderson Hill. I think the driver
The
to
grant.
Anderson Hill is gonna be the grant. We're gonna apply for TIB, and if we get a significant enough award, that'll probably drive that process. And same way with where is it? This number 6, that's over $500,000 project for the Pathway West, and it's primarily grant funded. We won't bring that forward unless we get the grant. We get the grant, then our match is $75,000. So I just wanted to bring the most current information forward. Yes, Mr. Clausen.
If you break the Bethel project in bite-sized chunks, which I think makes a lot of sense, what basis would you use to try to decide which chunk you're gonna go for? I mean, I could see it from the standpoint of, this is the one that has the highest, whatever, average vehicle per day, or, this is the one that has the highest likelihood of actually getting something completed. And so, I'm not sure what criteria you would use on that, or if you have any thoughts.
May I speak to
Yeah.
that a little bit? The county, in this federal cycle, this federal funding cycle, is asking for a bunch of money, like $2 million or something, for, I can't remember the name of the street. Pardon? Ridgetop. Okay, and their intent is to put it in pieces.
3 phases, yeah.
3 phases to construct it, but they're doing an overall, with the understanding that the design they do for the first phase is a design that will flow through all of the phases. And I would think of something like that for Bethel also, that we don't want it to look different in different phases. So this first part may be a little more expensive than we expect, because it would encompass the entire.
And we may.
And I would agree, it's
Yeah.
just that my thought is that, I mean, I guess you could look at it from the standpoint of just hypothetically, let's take Salmonberry to Sedgwick. We will develop a plan for that, and then we'll move on and develop a plan for, say, Lund or Salmonberry, that obviously will work together and do that in bite-sized pieces. Or we would do a plan for, say, 166 to Lund, and then actually move towards implementing and constructing whatever that improvement suggests before we move on to the next piece. So I guess you could look at it from a couple different ways. That's why I was just
I
asking.
think we're gonna, as we develop the budget and see what the dollars are, reach back out to the consultant. It may make sense to go 30% on, I think we want some level of design on the whole section. I mean, we got a corridor study.
Or have it like what Beck is suggesting, is to make sure that whatever you do for this section jives with.
Yeah, so that, so maybe it's taking the whole thing to a
Yeah.
lower level of percentage. And then there's maybe, and there's a different segment of it, whatever that may be,
Sure, that's an option
is
as
to
well.
a higher percentage.
Yeah.
So, anyway, more to come. We've got a bit of sticker shock there, from, I think, to all of us. So,
Welcome to my world.
yeah. I've just recently, so the three small cities, Bainbridge, Paulsbo, and Port Orchard, have a seat. We share a seat, and we're supposed to rotate on the CENTCOM board. Mayor Erickson has held that seat for the last couple of years, and she came to me last week, actually to Mayor Medina, and I said, she says, it's your guys' turn. And, jokingly, Mayor Medina says, well, I'm not a real mayor. I'm just a part-time mayor. So looks at me, and so I said, okay, I'll do it. So I start in June. I've got some conflicts on my calendar. I've reached out to CENTCOM to see if I can have an alternate from the council, and if I can, Mr. Clausen has agreed to do that. So more to come on that, and if we need to pass some sort of resolution from the council, we'll put that on the agenda. We've had a lot of requests for a no turn on the red light at the Lowe's traffic light. And so I had, because what happens is it's backing up all the way to Sydney, and then the light turns, so then there's a little bit of room, and then the folks that are queued up at Lowe's make a free right-hand turn and then take up all the capacity, queued capacity there, and it's, I don't know, it hasn't resulted in road rage yet, but, so I had Sharon take a look at the development, because Lowe's paid for that traffic light as part of their development agreement. Sharon's looked at that development agreement. There's nothing, legally, we could change that and put a sign on the light, on the arm that says no turn on red. I just want to, what are your thoughts on it?
I've witnessed that, and it can be frustrating. I mean, you can sit through a couple light cycles before you get to go. So I think it's worth talking about more.
I've got mixed emotions, because it can be frustrating regardless of what side of that signal you're on, because the same thing happens if you're coming out of Lowe's and you want to turn right, then the light
turn.
finally turns green and the queue is full.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Our city engineer is excited about it. It has been, I would say,
Stuff he lives for.
it is, and I probably get 2 emails a month about it, so
To me, the issue is, and it's the same conversation I've had with a number of people about just Sedgwick, Sydney in general. We know that through the SR16 study, it's the level, it's the interchange that's the problem. It's just, it's the backup.
Yeah, it's the next light up that's failed.
Right, and
it's
until
just
we,
causing-
really, these are all Band-Aids until the real fix comes. I did reach out to the Lowe's manager and district manager. I happened to catch the Lowe's manager when the district manager was there, because somebody said, oh yeah, they're together, they'll call you right back. And they never call me back. So I think they're just avoiding having the conversation, because.
I think we would owe them a letter before we do anything.
Right, I'm just saying that I can tell out of the gate that they're not gonna be very pleased, because they went through a process where they built a light to have a full movement intersection, and we're gonna be modifying that. But if Sharon's reviewed that and feels comfortable, we can write a letter, but, as Councilman Clausen says, that's gonna, we'll probably have to also do not block intersection, so that people aren't creeping through and not allowing it out, because you got people leaving in both directions that are being impacted by what's downstream. So,
I think regardless of what you do, you're going to upset one
Yeah.
group or the other.
or both.
Or right now, it's frustrating for both because of that situation, but if you start taking sides, you're taking a side.
Yeah, no,
I'm glad you have your phone number.
there
Mayor.
isn't a good answer. I'm just raising the question, and you know,
I think we ought to get the state over there and say,
yeah,
here,
that's,
I guess I'd look for a recommendation. If you think that one path is better than the other, or we ought to just let everybody continue to
our
pay.
engineer, our engineer, Ben and I have been debating this for, every time I get an email, and he isn't making a recommendation that we
Okay.
should change.
Yeah, we're not correcting the problem.
you're shifting the problem.
We're just shifting it.
So, okay, I think,
The good news is that Lowe's is busy, and I
Yes.
appreciate that.
yes, very much so.
That's a positive
Good
spin on
point.
it.
And I think the Sedgwick interchange will get a little bit of relief when Tremont opens up and people can change their traffic patterns, you know, over to Tremont. So, but it's a year away.
Did you hurry that project up?
We're working on it. We're working on it. Okay. There's been, if you haven't seen them around, they turned up here last Friday at City Hall, a flock of flamingos in Girl Scouts vests. And it cost me $20 to get them put on Jay Rosapepe's lawn, and I picked him because he was the newest council member. So,
It cost me 30, and they went to Amy Miller's house.
Amy's house ended up in my house.
Yes.
how much did it cost you?
Birthday. I don't know if Susan took care of that for her birthday.
Ah. Wonderful.
Did they come and pick them up?
Yeah, they do.
They deliver them and pick them up. It's a wonderful fundraiser for the Girl Scouts.
Yeah, I think it's called
All
extortion.
right, I
but,
heard a request from our presentation tonight for a resolution in support of West Sound Treatment Centers. Is there any desire to do that, or would you like a mayoral proclamation? Which your pleasure, or nothing?
Which will make more money for them?
You know, I think we do appreciate and support the work that they do for our community. It's, and I'm willing to prepare a proclamation, and read a proclamation. If you feel a resolution is
Is there
more powerful, we'll prepare that.
is there an awareness week or month or something like that between now and that event in October?
We'll
And
research
could
that.
we look into that?
Well, is the request to do some kind of recognition of their operation, or is it to draw attention to their October event?
I think it's both.
Oh, well, that's a safe answer. You must
He
be an
wasn't-
elected
they
official.
weren't-
Yeah, I think it's appropriate to recognize them and maybe in that, you know, but I like that idea. Is there something national that we don't know about that, so we'll look into that, reach out, and I'll report back next council meeting.
Yeah, just my own personal off the cuff is, I'm not sure it would be appropriate for us to do a resolution supporting a fundraiser.
I agree.
I
I
agree.
agree.
Well, and I would have somewhat the same concern, although, you know, I think they do a wonderful job in our community, and it's certainly a need, but they're not the only one in our community that does that, so are we singling one out versus
Yeah.
other
I
organizations?
have no problem with a proclamation or.
Yeah,
I've gone away from reading them here at the dais. I typically do a press release, put them on Facebook, and I put them on our website. And so,
Proclamation
okay.
seems,
Sounds like it's a proclamation, and we'll do it at an appropriate time with, and so more of a proclamation in support of what they do for our community. Yeah, okay.
well,
And-
I'd also suggest that you look into some of the others and recognize
Yeah, it's more global than that.
the
yeah.
others.
Yeah.
I mean, truly it's a need in our community, and I'm very supportive of that, but like I said, there are other organizations that do likewise the same thing.
They all might get, all the ones in our community. might
Recognize them
get-
all. For
yeah,
example,
in
is-
the proclamation, yeah.
Well, it's a great opportunity too for you to just draw attention to the need in that proclamation.
Absolutely. Okay, my last item is next Tuesday, we're gonna do a town hall meeting on single-use plastic bags, so hopefully you can all make it. If you can't, I'll wing it.
Same time, same station?
Same time, same place. We'll sit down here on the floor though and pass the mic around and, yes,
Can we sit in the chairs?
you can sit in the chairs. Sure. We might even bring these ones down.
Well, that's fine, just getting up off the floor is pretty hard.
Is a garbage bag considered single-use plastic bag? What about a mint? What
No,
about?
those are all, we've got somebody from the county's solid waste division here who's, is the resident expert. And so their county is a little farther ahead of this. We started talking about it, and then the county started doing some research on it, and they're looking at probably about a year and a half from now to do a ban, and I think if we're gonna do something, it's more powerful. Tacoma's done it, Bainbridge has done it, and if, the county's gonna do it, I think we all should be doing it in coordination or not be doing it. And that's really what this is about, is seeing how our community feels about it. With that, director's reports. Mr. Dorsey?
Just some real quick project update. So McCormick Park Phase 2, they were mobilized, as you know, as you had to wade through their piles of dirt. Well 9, you'll see contractors on site next week. Bay Street pedestrian pathway, the same. They're mobilizing next week. And as far as a Tremont update, so currently we're in Phase 2, which has Tremont closed from South Kitsap Boulevard up to Roland. This fall, we'll be moving into basically we've just moved into 2A, which is the light at South Kitsap Boulevard now is in 4-way flash. So I want everybody to know that the difference has that light's been functioning and now it's just at a 4-way flash. That's going to be that way for a month or so. It's really giving people time to adjust because those lights will be going away, and at that point it will just be a 4-way stop. So we're kind of moving into the 4-way, and it'll be that way until this fall. Phase 3 will begin this fall once they get the first wearing cord of asphalt, the curbs in and the wearing course of asphalt down. At that point, that's when you'll start seeing Tremont opening back up, for example, on a certain lane, then moving traffic to another one. So things will remain the same for the most part of Phase 2 and 2A. 3 will get back into the intermittent, it's different on Tuesday than it is on Thursday. So, but at the same time, that's down the home stretch. So, but that's kind of what we met today, and we're looking at traffic control. And so we're hopeful that we'll be moving into Phase 3 this fall.
Mr. Bond here, you and I talked about this, and I'll let him speak in a moment about this. This is a site-specific comp plan amendment. The county is in the UGA, and it's on Fircrest Drive. And I didn't have a problem with it, but when we talked about it, we thought maybe our ask of the county should be that they're making a commercial designation in a residential neighborhood where an existing commercial business is. Hanley Roofing's business is there, and just want to come and chat with you a little bit about it, if we want to take a position or remain silent. So with that, Mr. Bond?
I think it's a little more complicated than that, but you can see the property outlined in green on the map. There's 3 contiguous properties that are proposed for rezoning from urban high to commercial. And so this is taking away residential capacity, adding commercial capacity. And I think from a planning perspective, my bigger issue is choosing to locate commercial than residential, residential high, then residential medium, then residential high. It seems to me that you need to do the entire area or not do it at all. I also have been told that there's a code enforcement issue on this property currently, and that the use is actually an industrial use, and they're seeking a commercial zoning designation, I think is what's happening. And so I think it's a very complicated situation that's been going on for a while now, and we can choose to comment on it. If we did, I would suggest saying that, look, take the entire thing commercial for the whole area, not just that individual site, and then also looking at the buildable lands analysis and the fact that we're reducing residential capacity. Housing affordability is, of course, an issue, and this is one of the sites that's available for 30 units per acre development.
Can I add on to that what I know, which is of public record on that? The applicant basically submitted this request to the county as a response to code compliance. And so what they admit in their application is that if this were approved, you'd have a non-conforming use established in a commercial zone. And so at the same time, the board said they weren't gonna take this off the table. They wanted to hear, what the applicant had to say about this. But at the same time, there is a code compliance that is proceeding with this. So we've got these two tracks, and I will be recusing myself from this because I may be asked to comment on that request. But I would encourage the city to take a position on this.
Okay.
And maybe not tonight.
Well, we have a
Aware of
deadline.
comment. Is there a comment deadline or a hearing scheduled on this yet?
I don't believe the hearing's been scheduled, but it's not my side of the shop. I don't know exactly where it stands.
Could we have, because the red parcels to the north, those are all commercial.
Mm-hmm.
So it would seem to me
Well,
that,
can I just interrupt you? I'm sorry. To the north, a performance-based development has been approved there by the county 4 or 5 years ago. It was a mixed-use development project that would have involved both professional offices and multifamily development. I suspect it's on the market. I don't know that there's any activity, but that's what's programmed currently for that red several lots. Looks like, I think it involves.
I was just looking, and you see the urban high, and then you see the other little orange pieces in there.
The business park?
It should all be the same, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a mess
That's
there.
what Nick's
Yeah.
statement is
Yeah.
that he feels that if you're gonna do some of it, you need to do all of it.
Exactly.
Well, plus it sounds like they have an out-of-compliance industrial use in an urban high area that they want to make commercial that would also be out of compliance. I think it stinks.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Is that our official response?
I think it stinks.
Well, that's not very productive. Needs more work or no? It sounds like spot zoning. I don't know.
I'm just trying to
Yeah.
visualize it, and I'm having trouble visualizing it.
It's, and it's, you drive by it and you notice it, it's industrial. I mean, for years, they've been doing that.
Well,
Their construction
if
business
you
they have. And it's
driven
been,
by
and it's been growing and growing and growing.
Right. So there is that one corner lot where they have a parking lot, which that may actually make sense, but that was not what they asked for. And then if you go by there on a regular basis, you'll notice that they've done a lot of recent improvements to the area in spite of the potential of not necessarily getting what they want. So all of that is
Do we
available.
not support it, or do we want to? I don't know, can we wait 2 weeks? Will you draft an opinion on this and to bring back, or is
Yeah,
it
I
time
think
sensitive?
I think we probably have time to do that. In the event that we don't have time, it sounds like we need to write something stating our concern about the proposal, but hopefully we'll get an exact statement to you for
So
approval.
why don't we make that a discussion item on the next council agenda? You'll bring back a draft letter? It sounds like we're concerned with, is it just stinks, or do we want it all?
I agree with Beckett. I don't know enough about it, and I don't drive by it frequently enough to really have a major opinion, other than I agree. They should be consistent with what they
Yes.
do, because
Right, I
then
need
it gets
to-
into what Fred suggested in
Yeah,
spot
I
zoning.
need to drive up there and take a look at it, yeah.
So you got 2 weeks to drive by it, and then we're gonna at least start down that path with a letter that we'll bring that states that we think that whatever happens there should be consistent.
Yeah.
You have 3 weeks.
3 weeks, that's right. We got an extra Tuesday in there. All right. Anything else? Okay. Sharon?
For me tonight, thank you.
Brandy?
The only thing that I have is we seem to not be able to get together to take a council photo. So I'm hoping that maybe at the next meeting, June 12th, that everybody might be here, that we can take a photo. It's a little far out, but if you just let me know, I'll put it on the agenda, and if
And the
we need
weather's
to move
nice
it, we need to
now.
move it. I'll put it on there.
That's today.
That'll be the day.
June
No, I
12th.
said that's today that the weather's nice.
Yep.
Okay, we'll work towards that. Okay,
That's
it.
all I have.
All right. Jerry, you're the lone holdout. You got a comment for us?
I want to say that I appreciate that Beck pulls the microphone close to her. I have never had a hearing problem, but when I come here, I have a hearing problem. And I was wondering, what do those headphone mics cost that you'd each put one and have the mic? Because when you turn your head to talk to one another, you're not talking into the mic. And I went home and I haven't had my computer set up for a couple of years, but I tried to watch a council meeting on my cell phone, and maybe that was a bad idea. I couldn't hear any of you in that council meeting, and I didn't listen very long because I wasn't hearing anything. And I'm just thinking, if the other people out there are having the same, problem, you're not doing a service by not letting them be able to hear what you have to say. So that's something that I would like you to at least check on. What do those headphone mics cost? Because we can't hear most of you, and so, most of the time. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I rarely comment on citizens' comments, but I went back and watched one of our work studies, and I was the only person on the work study I could hear. And I'm not sure why, if that's where we have the microphones or what, but John did some talking, Sean did some talking, Cindy did some talking, and I don't know how the clerk's department, did minutes on it. But I was quite boisterous, so I came through real loud and clear.
I believe we can turn the volume up on this a bit, and we need to do a better job of
Yes.
talking into these microphones. That we do, because that's our.
I agree.
And so it's a good point. All right, with that, our meeting is.